It's midnight and you're watching Nightline with me, Anita Wu. The top stories. 49 new illegal routes used by immigrants identified in Sarawak. And registration of marriages for non-Muslims now allowed, with ceremony limited to 20 people. Our headlining story. As many as 49 new rat routes have been identified in Sarawak that are used by illegal immigrants to enter and exit the country. Armed Forces Chief General Tan Sri Effendi Buang said the town of Biawa is one of the areas in the state which has many hotspots that needs to be controlled to prevent the entry of illegal immigrants, curb cross-border crimes and to prevent the spread of COVID-19. The Armed Forces Chief also said that stern action will be taken against Armed Forces personnel involved in human trafficking. He said police were investigating and identifying those who might be involved.
Buat masa ni, yang dah ditangkap tu, tangkap. Mana yang mungkin ada lagi yang terlibat tu, kita akan cari mereka dan tentukan mereka ni dapat diketahui dan akan mengambil tindakan undang-undang yang serius.
He said this at a media conference after a working visit to Pos Kawalan Biawa here and presenting Aidilfitri and Gawai goodie packages in Lundu, Sarawak. General Tan Sri Effendi said that the armed forces will not compromise with any of its officers or personnel involved in human trafficking. The National Security Council announced that wedding ceremonies for non-Muslims can now be held with a maximum of 20 people in attendance. Senior Minister for Security Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, in a statement on Sunday, said the decision was applicable to wedding ceremonies for non-Muslims at houses of worship and non-Muslim religious associations that involve Assistant Registrar of Marriages, appointed under Section 28 of the Law Reform Marriage and Divorce Act. The number of individuals allowed is subject to the capacity of the house of worship or the non-Muslim religious association and social distancing rules. The wedding ceremonies must comply with the SOPs set by the National Security Council and the Health Ministry. However, wedding reception events are still not allowed to be held. Previously, on May 21st, the National Unity Ministry had announced that all non-Muslim wedding ceremonies held in house of worships would be postponed to July 31st. Meanwhile, in the same statement, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri revealed that 20 people were arrested on Saturday for breaching the Recovery Movement Control Order. The Senior Minister for Security said that 10 out of the 20 were held under remanded custody, while the other 10 were given compounds. Among the offences against the RMCO include karaoke and family entertainment activities, pubs or nightclub activities, and various other activities that makes it difficult for social distancing. One individual was also detained after trying on outfits at a clothing store. The Enforcement Task Force had conducted 66,468 inspections on Saturday, involving 3,503 enforcement teams and 15,432 personnel. Touching on the nation's border control, the police had conducted 60 roadblocks nationwide and inspected 38,474 vehicles, particularly the back roads. 14 foreign nationals were arrested for immigration offences. $788 notices have been issued under the Price Control and Anti-Profiteering Act 2011, along with 12 warning notices to those who flouted the Standard Operating Procedures, SOPs, at barbershops and hair salons proprietors. Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Minister Dato' Alexander Nantalingi said his ministry will continue with their inspection and monitoring at these outlets.
Ada 788 notis telah kita keluarkan dan jumlah notis amaran 17 notis kita keluarkan. Maknanya ada aduan dan kami buat siasatan.
He was speaking to the media in Pulau Pinang after visiting the Perai branch of the Prefaria Distribution Haulage on Sunday. The minister also said that compliance with the standard operating procedure at such outlets has reached more than 90% since they were allowed to resume operations on June 10th. Malaysia on Sunday announced 16 new COVID-19 cases, with 4 cases involving Malaysians, bringing the total number of infections in the country to 8,572. Out of the 16 new cases, 3 were imported cases involving 2 Malaysians and a permanent resident who were infected abroad. Health Director General Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah said of the local transmission cases, 9 were foreigners and 4 were Malaysians. Out of the 9 cases involving foreigners, 2 are close contacts to case number 8,513 from a cleaning company cluster, while 6 are from the Pedas cluster. 1 is from a Sabah detention camp. Of the Malaysians, 2 are from Sarawak from the Kidurong cluster, 1 from Malacca who was detained in a lockup, and 1 was identified from swabs taken before surgery. There were no deaths reported, with the fatality toll remaining at 121. There are currently 295 active cases still receiving treatment as of Sunday noon. Health Director General Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah also announced that 10 recoveries were recorded over the last 24 hours, bringing the total number of recovered patients to 8,156. In Johor, the main cause of the floods is due to failure to keep up with the maintenance schedule of the drainage system in the state. The situation affected 7 villages and several residential areas around Pekan Nanas in Pontian. The floods forced the evacuation of 1,210 people from 288 families. State Health and Environment Committee Chairman R. Vidyananthan said the 5 affected districts were Muar, Batu Pahat, Tangkak, Kluang and Pontian. In a statement, he said the victims were evacuated to 18 flood relief centres. He said Pontian recorded the highest number of victims, totalling 349 people from 85 families. They were being accommodated at 4 relief centres, namely Sekolah Kebangsaan SK Sri Bukit Panjang, SK Parit Haji Adnan, SK Kampung Sawah and SK Sri Bunyan. In Batu Pahat, the floods affected 343 evacuees from 75 families that were housed at 3 relief centres, namely SK Agama Air Putih, Balai Raya Kampung Peserai and Sekolah Agama 3 Serangkai. In Muar, 5 relief centres have been opened to accommodate 276 flood evacuees involving 65 families. They are Sekolah Menengah Kebangsaan SMK Bandar Maharani, SK Parit Nawi, SK Tanjung Toho, SK Orang Kaya Ali and SK Batu 18. Also evacuated were 207 people from 59 families in Kluang, and they were accommodated at 4 relief centres in the district, namely SK Simpang, SK Sri Kencana Simpang Renggam, SMK Dato' Abdul Rahman Anda and Sekolah Agama Komplek Penghulu. Another district affected by the flood is Tangkak, where 35 people from 4 families have been evacuated to the relief centres at SK Parit Bunga and SK Tanjung Gading 5. Candidates in the Chini by-election in Pahang have taken the opportunity of the weekend to campaign at locations visited by the people around Felda Chini, while strictly observing the standard operating procedures, SOPs put in place by authorities for the by-election. Around Bandar Chini, BN candidate Muhammad Sharim Mat Zain started meeting voters at stalls and hawker areas from 8 a.m. He also visited voters at their homes. However, the election machinery and supporters need to obey the SOPs, which include no shaking hands and maintaining social distancing.
Ini hari pertama dari segi kita berkempen. Pastinya kita berusaha untuk memastikan SOP ini, tapi masyarakat lebih mengenali saya rapat dan juga kita terpaksa menghormati dan kita cuba melakukan yang terbaik untuk mematuhi segala SOP yang telah diletakkan oleh SPR dan MKN.
Also seen on the first day of campaigning is independent candidate Datuk Tengku Zainul Hisham Tengku Husin. In following the SOPs, the candidate entered Chini Pasar Tani Kekal by going through the body temperature check and filing the attendance record.
Kita dah lama, maknanya cara tu kita tak ada. Adat kita apa semua harian kita cara tu tak ada macam tu dulu-dulu kan. Jadi pada pandangan saya tu memang baguslah. Dan juga yang diperhatikan masih dah ramai, bukan masih, dah ramai orang yang mengikuti nama yang baru ni.
Bursa Malaysia is likely to tread on a cautious mode next week on the back of external factors, including the resurgence of COVID-19 in the United States and China and tensions on the Korean Peninsula. Investors are also expected to monitor economic data, such as the US's jobless claims next week. Axicorp Global Chief Market Strategist Stephen Innes said the key index, the FBM KLCI, would likely stay at above the 1,500 level, following a lot of stimuli that should provide a boost to risk assets next week. He said this was a consolidation phase before markets push higher, while expecting a mixed session as investors are struggling to see through a possible run of weaker economic data next week. Oil prices are moving in a favourable direction, and there is a lot of stimuli that should provide a boost to risk assets next week. But investor fatigue is expected to set in after a very busy week in Asia, with geopolitical flare-ups on Korean Peninsula and COVID-19 headlines filling the airwaves. Bursa Malaysia experienced volatile trading throughout the week, with the FBM KLCI declining by 47.19 points on Monday, to end at 1,498.83 due to the resurgence of COVID-19 in the US and China, as well as weak oil prices, before rebounding to positive territory on Tuesday. The index fell 21.41 points on Thursday to close at 1,504.91 on broad selling due to lower economic growth projection and in line with most regional markets following the spike in COVID-19 cases. The Asian Development Bank said Malaysia's gross domestic product growth is forecast to contract 4.0% this year and grow 6.5% in 2021. The local bourse ended the week 2.35 points higher at 1,507.26 on mild bargain hunting. On a Friday-to-Friday basis, the index slipped 38.76 points to end at 1,507.26. Weekly turnover increased to 36.03 billion units, worth 22.07 billion ringgit, from 33.89 billion units, worth 21.59 billion ringgit in the previous week. We're going for a short break. When we return, Malaysians celebrate Father's Day amidst the new normal. Stay tuned. Welcome back, still on Nightline. 16 people were arrested in an integrated operation by the police, which ended in the early hours on Sunday at the Kajang Toll Plaza. A total of 453 summonses for various traffic offences were also issued. Selangor Traffic Investigation and Enforcement Head Superintendent Azman Shariat said the 16 traffic offenders in their 20s and 30s were arrested for involvement in illegal racing, testing positive for drugs and using stolen vehicles, among other offences. The summonses were issued for driving without valid licences and with vehicles with expired road tax and unlawful modification. He said a total of 239 vehicles, including 227 motorcycles, were inspected during the 7-hour operation, which ended at 6 a.m. earlier today. The police also sealed 77 motorcycles, adding that the operation also involved the Selangor Road Transport Department and Plus Malaysia Berhad. A father yields enormous influence, for good or for bad, by his presence or absence, action or inaction. The fact remains that a father influences and impacts his children deeply. In conjunction with Father's Day, our reporter Miza Shafiza Muhammad Fuad goes deeper into the real meaning behind the word father.
If we envision a future in which all our children have the opportunity to live rewarding lives, then we must consider the role of fathers more carefully. Fathers are the most important role model to their children for being a good husband, friend, worker, and community supporter. They represent something different and unique to everyone. For Anarita Anison, her father is always loved for his virtues and presence.
My father is special because I actually love my father a lot. You know why? Because I'm a girl, yes, I like Barbie doll and stuff, but my father I'm a girl, like I like to see WWE, racing, so he was he would take me for all this racing kind of in Sepang there. He would take me. So we have so much a memory as that.
He's there for me lah. Sorry, I remember him buying my first car for me, so I'll appreciate him for that.
Since my father is not there, he is back in hometown Kedah, so I'll be celebrating with my in-laws. So I would like to take this opportunity to wish everybody who is celebrating the Father's Day. Fathers, I would say, they are the gem of the family. Without them, it's nothing.
While everyone is celebrating this special occasion with their father, Long Yu Ji has to sacrifice today and work instead.
I already had worked for this sector already quite for a few years. So for me, I'm like so happy that I can provide my service to my customers. So if they're happy, then I'm also happy. Especially when they thanks to me, like I'm very proud of it also. If you today now I'm working, but after that maybe when I reach home, I will celebrate the Father's Day with my father, with my family also.
This day is largely a celebration. You can make it extra special for your father by reminding them how much they mean to you, remembering the sacrifices they have made and giving them their due in the form of love and respect can be the simplest yet the most heartful thing you can do. Iza Shafiza, Muhammad Fuad for Nightline TV3.
My dad's a hero to me.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Bersempena dengan sambutan Hari Bapa yang akan disambut pada 21 Jun 2020, saya Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah, Ketua Pengarah Kesihatan Malaysia, ingin mengucapkan Selamat Hari Bapa bagi tahun 2020 dengan tema Bapaku Pemimpin Keluarga Sejahtera. Kepada seluruh kaum bapa di Malaysia, terutamanya semua petugas barisan hadapan. Saya percaya dengan keadaan negara serta seluruh dunia yang sedang menghadapi cabaran pandemik COVID-19, para bapa sekalian berperanan sebagai ketua keluarga dan hero dalam melindungi keluarga anda daripada penyebaran wabak yang tidak kelihatan ini. Bersama kita putuskan rantaian jangkitan COVID-19. Anda semua bapa yang hebat. Selamat Hari Bapa, Bapaku Pemimpin. Kita jaga keluarga kita dan kita jaga negara kita. Sekian, wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.
Still to come on Nightline, North Korea vows to send anti-South leaflets amid heightened tensions. Don't go away. On to the foreign front now. Singapore announced on Sunday that mosques will gradually resume daily congregational and Friday prayers starting from June 26th. Muslims in the country will be able to return to most mosques starting this Friday for congregational prayers, which will be limited to 50 people per session. Singapore's Islamic Religious Council said mosques will provide 2 half-hour prayer sessions every Friday, with a half-hour interval between the 2 sessions to ensure safe crowd management. Congregants will have to reserve prayer spaces for daily and Friday congregational prayers using an online prayer booking system. Without a booking, congregants will not be allowed into the mosques. Singapore confirmed 262 new COVID-19 infections as of Sunday noon, bringing the country's total to 42,095. 9 are community cases, comprising 3 Singaporeans or permanent residents and 6 work pass holders, whereas the vast majority of the new cases are work permit holders living in foreign worker dormitories. China on Sunday reported 26 new confirmed COVID-19 cases detected on June 20th, driven largely by the latest outbreak of COVID-19 in the Chinese capital. The National Health Commission said in a statement, of the new infections, 22 were in Beijing. The fresh cluster in Beijing raised fears of a resurgence of the virus in China, which had largely brought the disease under control over recent months. Dozens of communities have been sealed off in the city to contain the spread, with residents told to avoid non-essential travel and schools closed. More than 220 people have tested positive in the new cluster. Australia's second most populous state, Victoria, on Sunday announced that it will extend its state of emergency for 4 more weeks to July 19th. This as the state battles a spike in COVID-19 infections with a pickup in community transmission. The decision came a day after the state said it would reimpose restrictions, capping visitors to households to 5 people and outdoor gatherings to 10 beginning Monday. Victoria reported 19 new infections on Sunday, the 5th day of a double-digit rise. The state now has 1,836 total confirmed cases, a quarter of the cases in Australia since the COVID-19 pandemic erupted.
New cases since our last update.
North Korea pledged to push ahead with its campaign to send propaganda leaflets into South Korea on Sunday, saying it is not bound to any inter-Korean agreements. As state media reported, angry North Koreans gearing up for their own large-scale leaflet campaign. Seoul's Unification Ministry, handling cross-border affairs on Saturday, urged the plan to be scrapped, citing a violation of peace agreements. The United Front Department of the North's ruling party, in charge of inter-Korean affairs, rejected the ministry's calls as absurd nonsense. The two Koreas, which are still technically at war as their 1950 to 1953 conflict ended without a peace treaty, have waged leaflet campaigns for decades, but agreed to cease all hostile acts in a 2018 peace accord. Tension has been rising after North Korea blew up a joint liaison office and threatened military action over defectors in the south sending anti-North leaflets across the border. Over in the United Kingdom, police said on Sunday they were treating a stabbing spree in which a lone assailant killed 3 people in a park in the southern English city of Reading as a terrorism incident. In the incident on Saturday, another 3 seriously injured when the suspect went on a stabbing spree in the park. According to witnesses, the man went on the rampage at around 6 p.m. local time in Forbury Gardens, stabbing people at random who gathered in the park on a sunny summer evening in Reading. The police said a 25-year-old man was later arrested on suspicion of murder and is currently under custody. They made no reference to reports that the man was a Libyan national. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson condemned the appalling incident and sent his thoughts to all of those affected.
Awan panas terlihat cukup tinggi membumbung ke angkasa.
It's now time to take a look at the highlights of Malaysia's main newspapers awaiting you Monday, June 22nd. The New Straits Times headlines: tweaks to the SOPs proposed by night market traders to ease reopening next month, claiming that the current SOPs are too restrictive. Whereas Malaysia's best-selling Malay newspaper, Harian Metro, features a report on how selling tissue by the roadside could allow you to earn up to 35 ringgit in just 2 hours. And suggestion by the Home Ministry to allow employers to hire illegal immigrants from detention depots lands the front page of Berita Harian. Whereas the Malaysian Reserve highlights the yet-to-be-filled leading roles at Permodalan Nasional Berhad, PNB. Do get your copies today or subscribe to the e-paper. A rare celestial phenomenon, annular solar eclipse, widely known as the Ring of Fire eclipse, had occurred on Sunday. Millions of people in parts of Western Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, as well as Asia witnessed this rare sight. As well as visuals of the eclipse thrilling sky watchers, wrap up Nightline this time around. I'm Manita Wu. With that, thank you for watching and be well.